everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Huck. Today we are doing my September book haul. I have 10 books to talk to you about today, 5 of which are nonfiction books. I somehow this month acquired quite a few nonfiction books. 2 of them were given to me, but also I have really been in like a nonfiction mood recently. Not necessarily a nonfiction reading mood, but a nonfiction buying mood for sure. So I have a couple of nonfiction books. Anyways, let's just get started. Normally, I would start with any new releases that I had gotten, but this time I don't actually have any new releases. However, by the end of the month, I actually will have a new release. I'm just pre-filming this a little bit early, so that book, I'll tell you about it now. It'll probably also be included in my next book haul once I like physically have it. Anyway, it is A Song of Flight by Juliet Marillier, which is my most anticipated release of the year. It is the third and final book in the Warrior Bards trilogy, where we are following 3 young warriors who at the beginning of the series are competing to be allowed to stay and train on Swan Island, which is this island where they train elite warriors. And then, of course, in the first book, they get involved in like a larger plot because they are the only people who are able to like go undercover in this very specific scenario. In the first book, they are helping a king to find a magical harp that he needs. Anyways, so this is the third and final book in that trilogy. I'm very excited for it. The second book was one of my favorite books of last year, so I'm very excited to see how the trilogy concludes. But yeah, so that is coming out very soon. I pre-ordered it, it's on its way, and I'm sure I'll have it by the end of the month, but I don't physically own it right now. Related to that though, actually, is another book that I don't own just yet. It's not here yet. I ordered it, but it's taking a long time to get here for some reason. That is The Harp of Kings, which is the first book in the Warrior Bards trilogy by Juliet Marillier. This book came out a couple of years ago and I've already read it, but I never realized that I never bought the like finished copy of the book. I only have the arc of it. And so when I was ordering or pre-ordering A Song of Flight, I decided to also get myself a copy of the finished copy of The Harp of Kings. There we go. That's a good sentence. Anyways, so that is also on its way. Also will probably be here by the end of September, hopefully. For some reason, it's taken a long time to get here. But that will also be added to my collection soon, and will probably be in my next book haul whenever that is, probably in October. We'll see. I feel like I've been buying books more slowly recently, which I think happens a lot of times in like the second half of the year. Anyways, that's not the point. Let's move on to the books that I do physically have now. So the first one is actually a book I've already read, and I mostly was just getting this because I love the cover, which is Wild Magic by Tamara Pierce, which is the first book in the Immortals Quartet. So Tamara Pierce is an old favorite. Her books are like the ones that I grew up with and what got me into reading in general, let alone reading fantasy. And the Immortals Quartet was always one of my favorites because it has like animal magic in it. And I already own this entire series, and I don't normally buy multiple copies of, or like multiple editions of a particular book that I already own. However, I was making exception for this one because it has a badger on the cover. And I've kind of been like coveting this book for a long time just because when they did the cover redesigns, the first book has the badger from this series, which I love the badger in the series, has the badger on the cover. Anyways, I bought this to be essentially a display item. Okay, other books that I got. So the next book that I have is A Swarm of Bees by Teresa Tomlinson. So Teresa Tomlinson wrote this book, The Forest Wife, which is actually another book that I loved as a kid, and so I was kind of curious like what else she has written, and I came across this one. I thought that it sounded like it'd be fun. It's kind of a like a historical mystery. It's like a murder mystery, yeah, but the main character in it is a half-pagan herb wife. And I was like, that sounds like something I would like. I think that there is a plague going around that she is trying to help like heal people, but then she starts to suspect that some of these deaths may not be accidents and that there may be like some larger conspiracy going on or a murderer or something, and so then it turns into a murder mystery. Anyways, I thought that this sounded like fun. It has an herb wife, a healer. I love it. Yeah, so I'm curious to read more from this author because a long time ago I loved a book from her. Another book that I just recently got is Forrest Born by Elaine Audrey Becker. And so Kara told me about this book. She texted me, was like, have you heard of this book? And I was like, no, but I'm buying it immediately because this definitely sounds like something I would like, because it promises forest vibes, and anything that seems foresty, I'm immediately intrigued. So in this, actually, I think that this one may also have a plague, which like I didn't really think about the fact that two of these books have plagues in them, and I'm like still not super into the idea of reading books with plagues at the moment, but maybe I'll make exceptions for these. But yeah, so in this we are following a girl named Aurora who had grown up in the forest, but now she is like living, she like knows the prince for some reason. Anyway, the prince gets sick with this illness that is going around, and the only way to cure him is with stardust, which can only be found in like the center of the forest where Rora used to live, but she has like sworn to never go back. But for the sake of the prince, who is her friend, she decides to venture back into the heart of the forest to get the stardust to save him. And it promises that it will be dark and there's a magical wood, and I think it says, yes, they must survive sentient forests and creatures unknown. Love a sentient forest. It just sounds like it's going to be very fun. I hope I love it. Then I have two chunkier books. So one of them is The Bone Ships by R.J. Barker. So this is, I actually don't really know that much about the plot of this, but I do know that it is about, I'm pretty sure it's about ships that are made out of dragon bones. And so it kind of sounds like the Live Ship Trader series by Robin Hobb. It also, every time I see these books, I like at first think that they're a Robin Hobb book because the covers look very similar to the UK editions of her books. So I've been meaning to pick this up for a long time because I don't think it's going to be the same, but it just always intrigues me. And I have not seen a lot of people talk about this. I've seen a couple of people maybe mention it, and I've heard some pretty good, not like glowing reviews, but generally kind of positive stuff about it. So I'm just very intrigued. I've been meaning to pick it up for a while. Finally did. And then the other one that I have is The Grace of Kings by Ken Liu, which I've been meaning to get for a while, because this is another fantasy that has kind of intrigued me for years at this point. But I've always put off buying it, partially because I've heard it is a military fantasy, and I don't love military fantasy. However, I have recently had my interest in this book kind of rekindled for two reasons. One is because I believe that this is described as silk punk, and earlier this year I read another series that was silk punk, which is the Tenseret series by Neon Yang, and I'm assuming these are going to be, you know, very different. However, I loved the Tenseret series, and so now I'm much more intrigued by other books that are also in the like silk punk subgenre, so that has made me more interested in this. And then the other reason that my interest has been rekindled is because I read another book by Ken Liu, which was his short story collection, The Paper Menagerie. I read that earlier this year also, and I really enjoyed it, and I was kind of surprised because I'm not usually a short story collection kind of person. but I really liked his writing and storytelling, and I just thought the stories were so good. And so that made me more interested again in Ken Liu as an author, and I'm very curious to see what his longer fiction is like. So that's why I've been interested in this for a while, but I finally like came back around to actually getting this, and I'm hoping to love it, because I actually have heard more people talking about it recently, because the third book is coming out, or it just came out. I don't know if it just came out or if it's about to come out. It's coming out in 2021 sometime, so people have been talking about this series again recently and have been saying really positive things about it, so that also has gotten me excited about it. Anyways, those are the fiction books that I got. Then I also recently got some nonfiction, as I said. Okay, so first I got two that were given to me by my work. So the first one is called Flawless Consulting, A Guide to Getting Your Expertise Used by Peter Block. So it's about consulting. I don't know, because I am working in consulting now, and so they want people to have this book. And then the other one is called The Trusted Advisor Field Book, a comprehensive toolkit for leading with trust by Charles H. Green and Andrea P. Howe. All right, then as for the nonfiction that I bought for myself, I have a book called Burnout, The Secret to Unlocking the Stress Cycle by Emily Nagoski and Amelia Nagoski. So this is about burnout, and I've actually heard some very good things about it, so I'm very excited to read this. And then the other one that I got is Laziness Does Not Exist by Devin Price, and this, I believe, is kind of about how in our society we have put such emphasis on like hustle culture and essentially assigning morality to work, like meaning that the more you work, the better a person you are. And so then we feel guilty for taking time off and have this myth of laziness, when in actuality it's usually just necessary rest. That's my impression of what this book is about. I have not read it yet though, but I'm also very excited about this. And then the final nonfiction book that I have has nothing to do with my job. It's just for fun, which is Badger by Daniel Heath Justice. So this is just a book about badgers. So it is about, I think it has some about like the history of badgers and how humans either perceive them or relate to them, either positively or negatively. I think it talks some about the symbolism of badgers and how they've been depicted in art and storytelling and in various cultures. I'm very excited about this. I've heard some pretty good things about this. Apparently, so Daniel Heath Justice, I think, has an entire series like this where there's a book dedicated to a different animal. And so if I like this, I may get other ones, but I have heard from reviews for this that the badger one is an especially good one in the series, which is like, of course, because badgers are great. So I got this just like for fun, because we all know I love a badger. Okay, so those are all the books that I have recently acquired. I'd love to know if you have read any of these, what you thought of them, or if there are any of these that you were like most excited about. Thank you all for watching, and until next time, bye!